Thank you very much. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Our first guest today is a young American who makes his home in Africa. If you have the slightest interest in wild animals and what's to become of them, we hope, and so forth, do not tune out. We'll find out more about this right after we say hello to our panel here on To Tell the Truth.
Bill Cullen. Peggy Cass. Bennett Cerf. And Kitty Carlisle.
And Bennett Cerf, may I say it's a continuing joy to have you with us.
That's the truth.
All this week. I understand you've got a new book coming out. Now, I would assume that you as head of Random House is publishing the book, right?
No, sir. It's being published by a rival publisher named Doubleday and Company.
Well, how come that?
Well, in the first place, I'm so modest that I wouldn't dream of saying about myself the things I can make them say about me. And the book is called The Sound of Laughter, and the intention is to make people feel a little bit better than they do before they read it.
Did you write it?
Yes, I did.
Is this true of all your books? You get another house to publish it so that you will not feel self-serving, in other words?
Well, seriously, other authors would think I was spending too much time on my own devices and not enough to take care of them.
It's a very wise move, and besides, you don't need any nepotism in the least. Now, I want you to look over here. Something comes from quite another book, and this is a lengthy photograph. Let's pan all the way down here. Look at that. Can you imagine? Now, the crocodile that you see there is over 15 feet long, and he weighs around 1,300 pounds. And if we can widen a little more, the young lady on the left is the wife of the photographer. And let's meet that photographer right now.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Peter Beard.
Number two.
My name is Peter Beard.
Number three.
My name is Peter Beard.
This is a young man I've been wanting to meet for a long time. I admire his work. Let's find out which one of these fellows is indeed Peter Beard. Here is his story. I, Peter Beard, am an artist, photographer, author with strong feelings for wildlife conservation and the possible permanent loss of all wilderness. I now live in Africa and devote most of my time to photographing and writing about the dark continent's ever-diminishing wildlife resources. I have visited remote areas and lived with many game wardens and participated in modern scientific research projects concerned with animal ecology. My 15-year photographic experience includes such shots as my wife posing here with a pet vervet monkey, and a warthog with a monkey whispering in his ear, and my wife again with a bush baby who has traveled everywhere with us for 2 years. Now, these photographs have appeared in Venture magazine and are included in a book, which is a statement of my African experience. The book is called The End of the Game. Signed, Peter Beard. Now, we'll try to unravel this happy mystery in just a moment after we line our pockets for a touch.
Zach?
Now, the puzzle up to be solved is the fact that all three of these attractive young men claim to be Peter Beard, conservation-minded photographer who lives in Africa, both physically and in his heart. And let's start the questioning with Peggy Cass.
I'm crazy about the title, The End of the Game. But I can't play this particular spot because I do know one of the contestants.
Wow,
I disqualify myself, folks.
You disqualify? All right, we'll check back a little later and find out why. So she gets a big fat 0. That counts for a wrong vote. And Bennett Cerf, we go on to you.
Right. Number one, did you ever photograph any tigers in Africa?
No, they don't exist in Africa.
Good try, Bennett. He's not only a publisher, he's a sneak.
Mr. Number three, a very famous story about Africa was written by Ernest Hemingway. Do you happen to know the name of it?
I think he wrote several. One of them would have been The Snows of Kilimanjaro, and the other would be the green hills of Africa.
They're very smart. Number 2, did you ever find your life endangered while you were taking one of these famous pictures of yours?
No, I have never.
How come? How are you protected?
Well, because number one, I don't feel any danger from any animals. I've been there off and on for 15 years, and the most problems I've ever had is when I trips to New York.
Number 1, has that been your experience too? Never had any close brush with death or maiming?
Well, close calls. We've had some charges on the Land Rover we were using.
Because you live in New York doesn't mean you shouldn't be afraid of animals. The litter on the street alone is enough to drive you up the wall. Let's go on to Bill Cullen. Kitty, I'm sorry, dear.
You forgot your colleague.
Yes, sir, buddy. Somebody.
What charged you, number 1?
Well, we've had a very interesting situation was when we were just training a native driver and we had a rhino charge. He got a little scared.
Number 3, what is a bush baby?
Sweet.
They're quite sweet. They're very small. They look like monkeys. They aren't actually.
What are they?
They're little furry animals.
All right, number 2, what is the most quickly disappearing animal?
Well, people commonly say the cheetah. However, there are many species that are quickly disappearing right now.
And number 1, why are people still allowed to shoot in Africa? Why aren't they simply limited to photographic safaris?
Well, I'm afraid that it's a misconception that you should not be allowed to shoot in Africa. One good reason, for instance, is that trophy hunting, which is game hunting, clears out actually only the oldest, the senile of the breed. It allows new blood to come into the breed. It serves a good purpose.
Number 3, why don't you ever see dead elephants anywhere? I'll never find out.
And there we go down to Bill Cullen.
Number 3, why don't you ever see a dead elephant? Number 3.
I've actually seen a few dead elephants.
Oh, you have. Kitty, he saw a few dead elephants. Number 1, we have always heard that elephants go away somewhere to die. Is there any truth in that fiction?
Elephants right now in Africa are dying of overpopulation. They don't go away anywhere.
Number 1, staying with you, could you tell me how much it costs to buy a license to hunt elephants in Africa?
Well, you usually buy a license that has many animals on it,
Yeah.
but an elephant license costs $3,000 to $5,000.
Oh, boy.
Boy, is that for just the plates, or is that a driver's license? Number 3, what is the purpose of the end of the game? I know it's for conservation, but what is your primary point that you make in your book?
I think one of the primary points was to shock people into realizing that we haven't done as much for animals as we like to think we have, and that in fact there are real dangers for all animals because of what we're doing ourselves.
In Africa, number 2.
Thank you, Bill, and that does us in for question time. It is decision time. Mark your ballots without consulting amongst yourselves, and you mark them for 1, or for 2, or for 3. $50 is the cost of a wrong vote, $500 if none of the votes is correct. And Peggy, you look...
I'm a disqualification.
Oh, that's right, you are a disqualification for reasons that I must check in a moment or so.
I'm not going to tell you.
Bennett?
Well, number 1 is awfully well coached and so slick that I voted for number 3.
You're catching on. Kitty?
I voted for number 3 because he has that curiously shy air of a real artist. And I think he's concerned about the problems of animal life disappearing.
So it's 1 disqualification and 2 for 3. And Bill Cullen, you have to have the final say.
Well, I saw Joan Bennett in a picture called A Macabre Affair. And so I know a lot about... I was all set to vote for number 1, but I don't think that $5,000 for a license. So I voted for number 2. He has that sort of look. I don't know. He looks like he's an African fella or something like that.
It looks like he ain't anyone who's...
Yeah, you know,
Sure, I know exactly what you mean. All right, here we go. Will the real Peter Beard please stand up? Nice to have you here, Peter. We'll be back to you in a moment. Let's find out about number 1. Number 1, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Ed Massey. I'm a management consultant, and I specialize in urban problems.
And number 2, sir, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Ray Hebert. I'm Executive Vice President of Advanced Management Research here in New York.
Now, we must, Peter, before getting back to you, find out why Peggy disqualified herself. On what basis?
Well, because I met him. I met Peter Beard. He's been in my house. I mean, I know him.
That simple.
Yes.
Well, I feel as though I know him because my son Mason works with his brother, Sam Beard, on Capital Formation. And I've heard so much about you. And I want to say, look, can we get a close-up of this book? This is one of the most dog-eared books on my bookshelf. This is at the end of the game, and I have read it time and time again, and the pictures are absolutely out of this world.
Always mention the publisher's name.
The publisher's name, Viking.
Gorgeous.
Now, obviously, Peter, you are not opposed to all killing, are you, of the animals?
There is a certain amount of hunting that is excusable, although I think it's a bit outdated, really. Going on a safari is something of the past.
But isn't it actually, it's not the hunters and really not the poachers that's doing the major damage. Isn't it the fact that the population of people is, you know, that's gone, they're putting the land into agriculture and that forces the animals out?
People reproducing is the #1 problem, but poaching, of course, is the next one in line. So that shouldn't be dismissed, as these small boundaries where animals are crowded into are tightly surrounded by populations of reproducing people. Those people go in and poach.
Peter, your life is to be envied. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us on To Tell the Truth. Now we go to a completely urban problem. Our next guest is a policeman who has a very unusual approach to the drug situation, and we'll meet him in a moment as soon as you listen to a few things, if you will. And now let's meet our unique policeman.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Paul Fabian.
Number 2.
My name is Paul Fabian.
Number 3.
My name is Paul Fabian.
All right, here is Paul Fabian's story. Listen carefully, please. I, Paul Fabian, am a police sergeant. I have initiated a unique approach to the narcotics problem among the young of my community. Here's what I do. I make a deal with each kid whom I suspect to be on drugs. I tell him that he has absolute immunity from punishment for any drug violations in the past, up to and including his day of arrest. Almost invariably, once a youngster knows that he won't be punished, he opens up and talks about himself and others as well. There's no doubt that this plan is working. Indeed, it's preventing narcotics from becoming an epidemic instead of a problem. Admittedly, what I do is unprecedented. Nonetheless, I am receiving full cooperation from all law enforcement agencies. As a matter of fact, I recently received a most coveted award. I was named Policeman of the Year. Signed, Paul Fabian. And this is our week indeed for disqualifications, because, Bill Cullen, I was going to start with you, but you actually brought this spot to us, didn't you?
Yes, I have. I met this gentleman professionally, actually. Fortunately, it was my business instead of his. I interviewed him for Monitor on NBC, and I thought it was he had such an interesting story, I recommended it to the program, yes.
Okay,
Very
Bill,
good.
thank you very much. And you get a big zip at disqualification, and we go to Peggy,
Thank
please.
you. Number 1, where are you from?
Rotterdam, New York.
And number 2?
Rotterdam, New York.
Oh, you're all going to be from Rotterdam. Number 3, what's smack?
Smack, heroin.
Thank you. And number 1, if a kid gives himself a tosser and gives himself up to you, but then he tells on his friends, you can arrest them, and then they're involved. So in other words, do you give him immunity? Or are you looking for pushers or for users?
Well, you see, we're after the pushers, but you see, the whole principle of the thing is really not basic police work. What we're trying to do is get the kids to help them, and the whole program's designed to help the kids. We're not after the pushers as much as we are to help the kids.
I see. Well, number 2, they have a science thing on CBS News, and I was stunned to hear on CBS News that marijuana is considered less addictive, less harmful to your health, and less personality change than alcohol. Number 2, do you agree with that?
Well, it depends on what study you go by. The American Medical Association and the World Health Organization both differ with that opinion in findings that came out, I think, in July.
Thank you. Now, number 3.
Let us remember at all times that this is a game, and any information that you pick up, you may have picked up from somebody who is not really well informed. I do not say it's not the right gentleman. It might very well be.
I heard it on the
We'll
news.
find out. What you heard is fine, but we don't know yet which is the real one. So let's go to Bennett.
Mr. Fadian, number 2. New York recently appointed a new police commissioner. Do you happen to know his name?
No, I don't. I know he replaced Commissioner Leary, but I don't know his name.
Would you know his name, number 1?
No, I do not.
Do you, number 3?
No, I know he came from, I believe, Chicago. I don't know his name, though.
We're not doing enough publicity in New York. Number 2, do you think marijuana should be legalized?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because until we get studies completed, and there are many going on right now, in addition to the 2 I mentioned, we shouldn't jump and legalize marijuana. It could be harmful according to the AMA and the, again, WHO.
Thank you. Number 1, what would you say is the most dangerous cheap drug that kids can pick up in a drugstore?
In a drugstore or on the street corner?
In the way of buying pills in a drugstore, not pushers, actually going into drugstores where they can buy
Well, your
pills.
amphetamines or your barbiturates, both are very dangerous.
Number 3.
Okay, thank you, Bennett. That takes us to Kitty Carlisle.
I'd like to ask you, number 3, how many addiction centers are there in Rotterdam, which is, I presume, where you come from, right?
Yes.
For youngsters under 16. What I'm driving at is, what's the good of finding out who these kids are who are on drugs? We don't have enough centers to take care of them. What do you do with them when you find out who they are?
Well, you've asked me 3 questions.
Well, answer whichever one you want.
The first question, do we have any drug centers in Rotterdam? I don't know of any. And what do we do with youngsters who are addicted? We refer those to other agencies that can help them.
I see. Number 2, do you feel there are enough drug addiction centers for youngsters?
In Rotterdam or?
Anywhere.
Well, I'm not too familiar
Well, what
with
about
other
Rotterdam?
sections. There's none that I know of.
Well, then I don't understand, number 1, why you want to turn these kids into stoolies. Then what do you do with them when you find out who they are?
I don't want to turn the kids into stoolies. That's not the point of it. I want them to open up and admit they have a problem. And we usually sit down with their parents. We discuss this together.
I see.
And once you establish, the parents find out that they are on drugs, many times the problem can be cleared up at that stage.
Thank you.
Thank Kitty very much, and that does an end to all the questioning. We must now make a decision. We must decide as to whether it's number 1, or number 2, or number 3. It's going to cost us $50 for each wrong guess. It's going to cost us $500 if everybody guesses wrong. Bill Cullen has already disqualified himself. And Peggy Cass?
Well, I voted for number 3. Because I guess everybody knows what smack is, but the thing is, when she asked him all those 3 questions, he's got a logical mind, like he questions people and gets answers, because he knew that you couldn't answer that in 1 sentence.
So, it's 1 for 3, and we go to Bennett Cerf.
Well, if I was casting for a motion picture, I would pick number 2 as the perfect police sergeant. But I like the things that number 1 said, and whether he's Mr. Fabian or not, I'm for number 1.
So it's 1 for 1 and 1 for 3. And Kitty Carlisle, what are you going to do?
I voted for number 2 because he has the latest information on marijuana from the AMA and WHO, I think you said, and I think it may turn out very well that it is very, very dangerous.
Okay, here we go. Spread all over the place. Will the real Paul Fabian please stand up? Hey! Sergeant Fabian, we'll be back to you in a moment. Let's check out number 1, sir. What is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Jeff Stanley, and I'm chairman of the board of the Somerville area JCs, which were ranked the #1 JC chapter in New Jersey.
Good for you. And number 2, what is your real name, please?
My name is Jack Conroy. I'm a senior copywriter with the Xerox Corporation, and my mother pays your checks.
Oh, bless her little heart. Give her our love. Sergeant Fabian, isn't the underlying philosophy that if a kid comes to you and tells you that he's got a problem, that you've already got it half licked. That means that he has now admitted to himself that he has a problem.
This is true. This is half of the battle, that's won.
So he comes to you asking for help, then?
Yes.
Right. Now, then, there was a question brought up. You say you have no centers. What do you must have someplace where you send him. You can't just say, good luck, buddy.
No. The New York State Addiction Control Commission does have a program which is geared for those who are addicted to the hard drugs.
So you work through the state. Well, thank you, sir, very much. Congratulations on your honor that you won. You deserve it. Thank you, other gentlemen, for being with us here on To Tell the Truth.
Get ready to play. Gene Rayburn, Jamie Lee Curtis, Charles Nelson Riley, Joan Collins. Check out all the stars on Match Game.
Oh, we're just one big happy family.
And then, where can you learn all there is to know about your favorite celebrity couples? On Tattletales. Join Bert Convy and get intimate with the stars.
Oh, George, it's just...
Catch Match Game at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, followed by Tattletales, weekdays on Game Show Network.
And we're going to see you tomorrow, are we not, friends?
Yes.
You betcha we are. Take care.
In addition to the cash awards, our central character today will receive suddenly a carousel wig, can be worn smooth, tousled, flipped, or with special occasion curls. Another easy care monocrylic wig from Carousel. Transportation and other considerations provided by Chevrolet, featuring the 1971 Impala with side guard door beams, more wheelbase, more glass, more sound-deadening materials, all at a Chevrolet price. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
The truth can be found in black and white with Bud Collyer. Don't miss the original To Tell the Truth, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.